computing. Thank you, sir. He is currently working as assistant professor at JP Institute of Information Technology, Noida. He completed PhD from the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Maulana Azad National Institute of Technology, NIT Bhopal. He has been worked as a
I think some voice is breaking. Sargam, your voice is breaking.
Yes.
Hello.
of the Computer Society of India, Bhopal chapter. As a PhD scholar, please continue the session. Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Pratik sir.
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. You can proceed with the presentation, sir.
Okay, let me.
Sir, for us in a minute, participant, we are requesting to open your video. We just check a presentation or attendance via this platform. Open your video for 2 minutes. Okay, sir, we can continue our session.
Okay, participants. First of all, I would like to know my screen is visible or not, and my voice is audible or not.
Visible, sir. Visual and audible.
And the presentation is visible.
Yes.
Okay. Just let me. Just a moment. Let me set up. Okay, good afternoon to all of you. This side Dr. Ashish Mishra, and myself.
Participants, kindly mute your mic. Participants.
So this is Dr. Ashish Mishra. I am assistant professor at JP Institute of Information Technology, Noida. The topic I will choose here is general purpose computation on graphical processing unit. It is in general we call it the GPU computing, and sometimes it is also known as a heterogeneous computing, right? So why we call it heterogeneous, why we call it GPU computing, we will see in the coming slide. Okay. So before coming to this session, let me establish some outcome for this session. So dear participant, if you listen all this content carefully, then you will be able to understand the concept behind the GPU computing at the end of this session. You will be able to set up your own GPU ecosystem and your own laptop or your desktop to program the GPUs, right? And you will be able to distinguish various technologies related to GPU computing, right? And you will also able to understand, and you can write the CUDA program that can run on your GPU also. And at the end, I will show you some tools through which you can locate and perform. You can locate some performance bottleneck of your program by using various tools available in the NVIDIA. Right. So my main purpose here to just to give you some glimpse of various ecosystem, various technology, hardware, and everything languages, so that you can start your. You can write program, you can understand to set up your software and hardware, and you can start writing your program on the GPUs. Okay, so some content I am covering in deep, like CPU and GPU architecture, and your first CUDA program. I will covering it in detail, right? At the end of this session, I will demonstrate you the CUDA programs, different Visual Studios program, how you can open the program, how you can check how can you run the program, how you can check the performance of program, what are the different sample SDKs available in the GPUs. So I will show it at the end of this session, and I will demonstrate all these things, right? So that you can also copy in your desktop or own computer. Okay. So with the help of this presentation, you will be able to start writing a CUDA program. You can start, fetching. You can start debugging the GPU's code of it, right? So let us start. Before going further into our own main topic, let me explain you what are the different parallel programming models, right? So some of the parallel programming models which are generally used, which are found in the literatures, are the first one is message passing with SPMD model, right? Basically, it is used for the scientific application with C++ Fortran, and it will use the send and receive messages for matching. They will communicate only for the send and receive messages, and it's very hard to use. Okay, every time you have to configure, you have to send and receive the message. Another one is the shared memory model, and we will exploit this shared memory model with the help of the OpenMP, pthreads, and Java kind of language, high-level language. Normally, it is a non-scientific applications until you write a very optimized program, and it is easier to program for the simple parallelized application because there is a direct read and write to share data, right? So data is shared, but still we have to take care of the sharing data so that there should not be any conflict by writing a program. Okay, the next one is the partitioned global address space. It is an alternative hybrid model. Okay, and it is nowadays very popular since it is directly coded in the hardware, so you can write the program which is very much speedy. But it is very hard to write the program as compared to the other programming model. And finally, our focus of this session, our main focus is on heterogeneous model. We call it the heterogeneous model, and it is also known as the GPU computing model. And this model basically uses the GPUs for their processing. Okay. Here, one thing I want to inform you that why we call this heterogeneous model. That's very important concept. Please try to understand. Since GPU is a co-processor, it is not a main processor. Right? GPU is considered as a co-processor and CPU is still a processor. GPU work under the guidance, under the control of the CPU. So if you want to exploit the power of the GPU, you want to use the tremendous number of the core of the GPU, and we want to use that, we have to use the CPU. The process is initiated by the CPU and we will transfer control to the GPU. So wherever GPU is using, it means CPU is also involved there. That's why we call this as a heterogeneous model, because both two different kind of the processors are coordinating to perform a certain task. Okay, both are totally different. CPU and GPUs are totally different. We cannot say it is the same, right? They both are totally different. So that's why we call it the heterogeneous model. You can understand. I think you understand the concept. Even we can use some another technology with the help of the GPU. Even we can use the multiple GPUs with a single CPU. Even we use the PGAs with the GPUs also. That depend on the programming model what you are going to use. Even with the Hadoop architecture and Hadoop concept, MapReduce concept with the help of the GPU computing also. Okay, so if we are using the two different kinds of the model to take different kind of the processor, then in that case we call it the heterogeneous computing model. And in most of the well-known colleges, you can find the heterogeneous computing lab where the GPU is the most important part of that lab. Even in our Manet, there is a heterogeneous computing lab where you can find a very high-end workstation that include the GPUs, very high GPUs. Even some computer have the multiple GPUs there, right? So let us come to the graphical processing unit, right? It is also, in short, we call it the GPU. So what is a GPU? Obviously, it's a very specialized processor that efficient at manipulating and displaying the computer graphics. We all know that for the graphics, for managing, for accelerating the graphics, GPUs are compulsory to be there. If you want to make an animated movie or if you want to edit some high-end graphics, without graphics card, it is not possible. Okay, so GPU means not rendering right now. Okay, in past, GPU is only for the visual output, but right now we call it the GPU since it is not only dedicated for the rendering, but it is also able to do some other tasks. Okay, GPU is the dedicated super-threaded massively data parallel coprocessor. As compared to the CPU, GPU has the massive number of the threads they can execute at the same time. Obviously, but it is still a coprocessor. It is not a processor, right? So the data parallel portion of an application are executed in the device as kernel, which run in the parallel on many threads, right? So whatever a particular application has some data parallel portion, subsequential portion, so it is not always necessary that an application has the parallel part, right? So it's very important that whenever we have a data parallel portion, we will execute that data parallel portion in the some specialized processor that is capable to handle that high computations, right? Just a minute. Okay, I would like to request the organization at any moment of time, if you don't find my audio or graphics, please let me know, right? Now next come to the graphical processing. Let me introduce GPUs. You know about that. It is very common terms in mobiles and in the desktop. It is very well used, but let me introduce again here. The GPU is basically specialized for the compute-intensive, highly data parallel computations. Okay? And why it is possible that you can see in the graphs, these GPUs have the 100 of the cores. 100 of the cores. And core means that the computation unit, we can say. Okay? You find that in CPU, in i3, i5, and i7, they vary from the number of cores also. Okay? The number of cores, if more number of cores, it means they have more processing power. So this is a general diagram. I will explain in the coming slide in detail, right? So this is in GPU, the threads are extremely lightweight and we can generate more than 100,000, depending on the architecture, we can generate the maximum number of the threads. But in case of the CPUs, we are restricted to generate the 7 or 8 threads only, right? So that's why we will use the GPUs. Now let us come to our core question that there's a topic of our presentation. What is the general purpose computation on graphical processing? Why we call it the GPU? Why? What is the reason behind it? So earlier when we developed the graphics card, which is basically at that time is used to render the graphics, to handle the graphics need of growing development. At that time, the graphics processor we did not call GPU at the graphical processor as a GPU. Okay, at that time in early age of 90s, 95. So this graphical processor is basically used to handle the graphics. A small games, maybe say pictures and all these things. Okay? And of course, this graphics contain this processing element because this processing element cannot process the large graphics. So scientists think on that, why we cannot use this graphics card as a processing unit? Why we cannot process the normal scientific applications on the GPUs, on the graphics card? Can it be possible to run the matrix multiplication on the graphics card at that time? No. So scientists think on that and they change the graphical pipeline of the graphics card. And it make it possible for a programmer to write the application that can run on the graphics card. It is only possible when NVIDIA, say in 1990s, NVIDIA is one of the most popular manufacturer developer in the GPU sector, and they basically changed the pipeline of the GPUs in the 90s, and now this graphics card is able to handle the general purpose computing. General purpose computing is all that computation other than the graphics. Although graphics is included there, but like matrix multiplication, like Fourier transformation, can it be possible to run on that? Yes, of course. By with this modification pipeline, we can run this application. So from that, we are calling this graphical processing as a general purpose computation on the graphical processing unit. Right? This is the basic concept behind that. Right now, GPU is used for the varieties of the application you know that. Right now, the GPU is the backbone of the deep learning network. Without this GPU, we cannot able to run deep learning algorithm on the GPU. Not possible. Okay, I hope you got the concept why we call it the GPU computation, right? And it is the most popular term in right now in current age of computations. Okay, now let us come to some preliminary understanding of this graphics card. So you can see here the CPU, a general and very normal diagram of the CPUs. In the coming slide, we are going to compare the CPU and GPU. Then what is the difference in them? Okay, so you can see in this diagram, this CPU is designed for the latency sensitive philosophy. And so in GPU design, we typically will cover three prominent features. One is ALUs or arithmetic logic unit, or design as powerful logic that would generate this numerical arithmetic result in very few clock cycles. Right? And in typical CPU codes, so for a 64-bit double precision floating point operation, the addition and the multiplication operation on this double precision data value typically will take only between 1 or 3 clock cycles. And these clocks are also running very high frequency at about 1.52 over 3 gigahertz. Okay, we understand that CPU is very much useful for the sequential kind of application. So in terms of the pure time latency of arithmetic operation, the CPUs have extremely short latency, producing this floating point of the arithmetic values. Right? And the next big feature, prominent feature, is that the CPU tends to have large cache, and this large cache are designed to convert long latency memory access to short latency cache access. Right? And that strategy is to keep as many data elements as possible in the cache, so that whenever any of the CPU execution unit need to access that data, the chances are high that they will be available in the cache. Okay, since the in particular miss in the cache is very highly costly in CPU, right? That's very important. It improves the chances of a particular data to be in the cache. Okay, so therefore the access plan to this data can be greatly reduced. The third one is sophisticated control, and the control, you can see this control. Okay, this log use basically it is manifested in two forms. One is this control unit. The one is the branch prediction support for reduced branch latency. Branch instructions basically are the generated from high-level language constructs such as if then else statements such as loops, and the decision for picking one of the paths of if then else construct are the decision to determining whether a loop should be iterated more time or exit. Right? So because this control instructions need to make this decision, the most modern microprocessor, the actual decision may take a long time to make. Okay. So having this prediction capability of the control unit to predict which way the branch institution will go, will allow us to immediately fetch and execute all the instructions that are in the particular path. However, we have to allow for the cases where the prediction may fail. Okay, it may be possible sometime prediction may fail. If the prediction turn out to be incorrect, we need to keep enough of the processor state that with to be able to recover from the incorrect prediction, and therefore we need to have all these resources in the control logics to be able to support the branch prediction and making the prediction as well as recovering the incorrect prediction, right? So we also have a lot of control logic that is decided for the data forwarding, and which take care of the situation where the output result of one instruction is needed by some subsequent instruction, and the data forwarding logging that determine where these instructions are in the pipeline and route the result to those instructions as quickly as possible. And this involves a large number of the comparison circuitry and also routing circuitry. So this can a lot of chip area as well as execution power also, right? So the bottom line is all these mechanisms are there to reduce the latency of an operation. We want to execute a particular operation as fast as, there should not be very less. We want to reduce the latency. The first one reduce the arithmetic calculation latency, and the second one reduce the memory access latency, and the third one reduce the branch decision latency as well as the latency for or between the generation of a data value and the execution of all the instructions that require that value as an input, right? So this is all about the CPU. Let us come to the GPUs, and you can see here this is a single dynamic RAM, and this green part is basically a computational unit, and these are the shared memory, that's yellow and orange part, right? So GPU on the other hand are designed as a throughput oriented device. It is not designed for the latency oriented device. It is throughput oriented device, and the GPUs tend to have very small cache. Okay, CPU have very large cache, but GPU have very small cache, and this cache are not used to retain data in the cache for future access. Okay, but in the CPU we want to access data in future, that's why we put in the cache or RAM or other memory L1 L2 cache. But rather these caches are designed for as staging unit for a large number of the threads. Okay, if there are many threads that are simultaneously executing require the same data, then the cache memory will consolidate all these requests into one, so that the request can go to the dynamic RAM DRM. And when the data comes back, all done, the cache controller will actually serve as a forwarding logic to distribute the data to all the execution unit or thread that require that data. Okay, so the latency for going to the DRAM skill will still be there. However, the logic allows multiple extents to this to be consolidated into a smaller number, so that we can convert the traffic go into the dynamic RAM. And the second one is simple control, and this is shown as the small yellow boxes on the left hand side. You can see this is small yellow in the left hand side. Okay, and in GPUs we typically have no branch prediction, and we typically have no data forwarding or very little data forwarding. Whereas in the CPU, there is a branch prediction, branch prediction to improve the latency, and data forwarding is there. Okay, so the third one is the energy efficient ALUs. Instead of building a small number of very powerful ALUs with very short latency, with GPUs usually come with a large number of long latency but very power efficient low power ALUs. So these ALUs are usually heavily pipelined so that they can accept one operation every clock cycle, and then they will take a long time for each operation to produce a result. So, but at the output of the ALU, you will see one result coming out of the pipelining every clock cycle. So having so many ALUs and such a long pipeline for every ALU, we need to have a large number of the threads. That's a very important concept. We need a large number of the threads, each one having a arithmetic operation that can be executing in this ALUs in one stage of the ALU, so that we can fully utilize all the hardware, right? So that is the reason why these devices are designed in such a way that if we have a massive number of the threads, each one contributing some operation at the same time, then we can fully utilize this large number of the ALUs to produce result in a very high throughput rate. However, every thread will take a long time to execute, and every operation will take a much longer time to execute than the corresponding than their CPU counterpart, right? So now we understand the design philosophy of CPU core and GPU core. Then we should be able to understand that the winning application today need to use both CPU and GPUs. You cannot use only CPU or only GPU. Okay, both the philosophy is totally different. For the CPU, latency is very high, but the GPU throughput is very high. And we will use CPUs to execute the sequential part of the application where latency really matter, because in the sequential part of the application there are going to be very few operations that can be done in parallel. And so we just need to be able to execute these few operations very quickly so that we can get through this section very quickly. On the other end, we will use the GPUs for the parallel part where the throughput wins, and then in those parallel part we will have lots and lots of operations that can be done in the parallel. Okay, so it is very important for you, if you want to exploit the parallelism of a GPUs or any other hardware, you first need to identify what are the different parallel parts and what is the sequential part. Right? Just deploy the parallel part to the GPUs and sequential part to your CPU. Okay, so we use those operations is fully utilize the large number of ALUs in the GPU so that we can execute through those parallel sections extremely quickly. And whenever we use GPUs to execute this parallel section, they can easily 10 or more than 10 times higher performance in the CPU. If you effectively or you write an optimized manner, then it is more than 10 times better performance than their counterpart CPU. And obviously the CPU can easily achieve 10 or more time performance compared to the GPU, right? Now let us come to the next slides. Let us compare again. So in the previous slide, you learned that what is the CPU architecture and what is the GPU architecture. CPU is target to the latency, GPU is target to the throughput. Now let us come to find out the difference between the CPUs and GPUs. Okay, so particular GPUs have the hundreds of the simple core, thousands of the concurrent hardware thread may be there, and the processing power is the 1000 gigaflops per second. Whereas when we talk about the CPU, few very complex core, hardly 4, 5 or up to maximum 8, right? And multiple threads with performance optimization, and processing power is hardly 10 gigaflops as compared to GPUs. You can see in this diagram, the more than 10x performance we can achieve by deploying our application on the GPUs. And CPUs, you can see here the optimized for the serial task here. And the GPU, basically, we call it the accelerator also because it is used to accelerate the application, optimized for the parallel task. Okay, this green part is all as the multiple cores available in the GPU. These are the computational units, core. In general terms, we call the core. And this in the CPU, this blue part is the core. So in this CPU, you can see there is a 6 core, and but when you see in the GPU, these are the more than approximately 100 core is there, processing core, right? But one thing I want to inform you that it is not always possible for us to deploy an application on the GPU, and at the same time we are not able to use all the core of the GPU. Not possible. Why? Because it is inherent nature of the application. I can say this: if suppose we have a 1000 processing core at GPU, and suppose we have a particular you can say an image where we have 100 pixels, and then in that case we every processing core at GPU can target each pixel simultaneously, right? You can see this 100 pixel can, if you want to add some value simultaneously, we want to add to the all the pixels at the same time. So the GPU is very much efficient in that case. Okay, since running all we are executing all pixels at the same time. So GPU is very much ideal for the image processing. But when we talk about some other application like SWAM optimizations, like Fourier optimization or natural processing, right? So in that case, you have to design an algorithm in such a way that we can use the GPU's performance. And in coming future, every application, every algorithm running on whether it is on your mobile or your computer, desktop, or laptop will be modified to use the GPU. You can see here, you can run your Chroma browser using with the help of the GPU also. Right now, the recent laptop or computer provide an opportunity that you can use the GPU's core for your general purpose applications. Right? Any application that provides this facility, Chroma browser you can run on them. Your image processing software you can run on the GPU. Intentionally you can run. Although this is the intelligence of your operating system that will automatically deploy heavy computation on the GPUs, but intentionally and explicitly you can select your application to run on the graphics. I will show you at the end of this session. I will demonstrate you how you can choose a particular application running on your computer to use the GPU. Right? I will give you the demonstration. So the GPU strength, very large main memory, very fast clock speed, and latency optimized by large caches. A small number of threads can run very quickly, and the weakness is relatively low memory bandwidth. Right? Cache miss very costly. I told you in the previous slide, the cache miss is very costly, and we try to adopt some algorithm that reduce this cache miss. Okay, and the low performance per watt. This is very important. Okay, this performance per watt. At the end of this presentation, last 2 or 3 slides, I will discuss the power consumption of the GPU. It is one of the hot topics right now for the researchers. Okay, I just touched that topic and give you the hint so that you can start thinking on that side, right? And GPU strength. This is high bandwidth main memory. Bandwidth is very important. Otherwise, you cannot transfer this bulk data. Okay, it is very important. I told you that CPUs and GPU have very less number of the cores, okay, but GPU is used to handle the large number of data. If CPU controls the GPUs, it means the data should be transferred from CPU to GPU. That's right. So the bandwidth should be very high so that the large amount of the data can be transferred immediately to the GPUs. Okay, so GPUs is a latency tolerant via parallelism, significantly more compute resources, high throughput, high performance per watt, and what is the GPU weakness? Relatively low memory capacity, right? It's very important. Relatively low memory capacity, low per thread performance. Obviously, the GPUs have the large number of the threads, but as compared to the large number of the threads, they have very relatively low per thread performance, right? Just a moment, let me connect my pen. Just a moment. Right. So here you can see. Okay. Now come to the next slides. Okay. This is a performance comparison of the CPU and GPUs. Okay. You can see here we used here. Sorry. So here you can see that the order of metrics is 4,000, 6,000, 8,000, and 10,000. and the performance at the CPU and performance of GPU. And finally, you can find out the speed up of this, CPU and GPU. So here you can see that for the 4000 kind of application, you can get the speed up of more than 1000. And for the 8000 order of the matrix, the speed up is more than 2000, which is very tremendous, improvement in that. And this is a matrix multiplication. I have run that application on the ManageLab at that time when I was doing there. I was pursuing the PhD there. Right? So there is a CPU and the GPU application. I have run on both and I calculate this time. So this is the real-time data. It's my own data, right? So you can see here for the simple matrix multiplication, which is very compute intensive. Okay, you just try to run a particular C or Python program with the 1 lakh order of matrix. Let's see what happens. It cannot able to execute sometime. If you have a very high efficient RAM, then it may be possible that your program will run on the CPUs. But in normal sense, we try to run a matrix multiplication with more than 1000 order of matrix. Then in that case, CPU is not able to run. Okay, so you have to rewrite that matrix multiplication application so that it can run on the GPUs, right? And the speed up you can get here. You can observe the speed up. That is the advantage. We are getting the speed up. That's why we are using the GPUs for our day-to-day applications. Although its cost is also there. GPUs is costly. Okay. Now let's come to the why we use the GPU computing. In this diagram, we are showing here, although this data is very old, but still it is very easy for you to understand the importance of the GPU computation. Here you can see this green line is the GPU and this blue lines is the CPU. And you can compare the speed up of that. Okay, the processing power of any CPU or computer is measured in terms of gigaflop per second, right? You can see here this is the single double precision and this is the single precision data. So you can see at the single precision, we are achieving the 500 gigaflops per second, whereas when we talk about the CPU, we are achieving less than 200, approximately 100 gigaflop per second operations, right? To this smartly designed application. And when we talk about the single precision NVIDIA GPU, you can see here, this is the performance where it is 1100 approximately, right? So that's why this force us, this motivate us to use the GPUs to improve the computations, right? That's very important concept. Please try to understand. Although you in Google, you can find the latest data also. Right now, we have a very, very fast processor and very costly GPUs available in that. Okay. Right on the Volta series is very important. Volta series is the highest number of the GPUs right now. The highest number of computation core, a particular NVIDIA GPU content is 5,000 approximately, 5,000. It is approximately 5,000 something, okay, but it is a maximum number. The GPU I get it grant from the NVIDIA contain the 2888 number of cores, computation core, and the GPU is the Tesla K series 40. This is the GPU I get from the NVIDIA, and it is, at that time it is this is only the workstation compatible GPUs. It will not use for the render graphics. It will not render the graphic. It is especially meant for the higher end workstations, right? So here you can see here in this diagram the transfer rate, the bandwidth of the GPUs is also very high. In this case, you can see GPUs के लिए it is approximately 140 gigabyte per second of the transfer you can achieve with the GPUs. And when we talk about the CPU, you can see here this is a 3 gigabytes here, 3 gigabyte per second, right? So that's why this is the two reasons: the computation power and the transfer rate, the memory bandwidth is very high. That's why GPUs are very much useful for the high computational graphic, right? Got it? Now next come to the heterogeneous parallel computer application. These are the different applications. These are the, it is not limited. You can find the more applications. Please mute yourself, please. The request to all the participants, please mute yourself. So the In financial analysis, the stock prediction, you can use the GPUs. Without GPU, it is not possible. And the scientific simulations, engineering simulation, data intensive analytics, right now, data science, Manish, machine learning are very much useful. Medical imaging, you can detect the cancer, you can detect the glaucoma with the help of the GPU because it provides the high computational. Digital audio or video, of course, it is very computational intensive task. Computer vision is not possible without GPUs. Biomedical information, one of the very growing field right now. Electronic design automation, we can use statistical model, numerical method, ray tracing, very much new concept we are using here, and interactive physics. All this can be used without, it is not possible for all these areas or domain to enhance their capability with the help of the GPU, right? So it's very important. You can see in this picture, I got this slides from the NVIDIA, and you can also find this slides from the NVIDIA, how much speed up we are getting for the some application. You can see this medical imaging, University of Utah. You can see the 146 time of the speed up they can achieve. Okay, these are the standard benchmark. Okay, it is not, it is a standard benchmark included in the research paper and including in the library. And NVIDIA is including in their literature, that's why it's very, very much standard. And you can say the molecular dynamic University of Illinois, they get the 36 times faster than the CPU version. Video transcoding 80x transfer. We can improve this 50x to 100 by employing the very high graphics also, right? I don't know, they did not include the graphics, but by applying the newer version, by using the newer graphics card, we can improve the speed of the of the GPU application 100 times, and you can see that how much we achieved with the help of this, right? So this is the application you can easily find out in the internet, right? So ultimately, when we talk about the speed up there, the CPU is very much means serial tasks. We can get the output easily and very fast with the help of the CPU. But when we talk about the throughput, when we want to process the bulk data, it is very important to use the CUDA. Okay, it is not useful and it is not very good decision to run a matrix multiplication or operation with hardly 20 or 10 kind of order of the matrix. 100 or 10. It is not useful for that. If you run that GPU, that it is not worthy for you, right? So it is up to you. You have to choose according to your need where you want to. Then according to your need, you can choose the CPUs and GPUs. Okay, right? Now let's try to understand accelerated node. This is our GPUs. This is our GPU, and this is our CPU. And it is connected to the PCI slot. PCIe slot is a very fast communication device. They connect both CPU and GPU. Okay. This CPU generally has a large and slower memories, and GPU generally a smaller and faster memory. GPU obviously is a smaller memory, but they have very computational fast. Again, data and computation are offloaded to the GPUs. Of course, we have offloaded the parallel task. And in this last topic, you can see here the data must be copied between these memories over PCI. PCI band is much lower than the hidden memories. Let's try to understand the computation of a particular application on the GPU is restricted by this PCI slot. Right now, you can observe in the coming in the latest laptop or desktop, you find that the NVMe link. This is very fast link. Why we are including, why this connectivity is important, why the bandwidth of this connection is very important. Why? Because we know that everything will be transferred from the CPU to GPU. Any GPU application use the CPU and GPU both, and CPU will take the charge of all the application. CPU will be responsible to transfer the data from here to GPU, right? So this bandwidth is very important. If the bandwidth is very high, then the data transfer will be very fast. And in that case, you can, of course, improve the performance of your GPU application, right? So this link is very important. Why it is very important? Because we have to transfer the data from CPU to GPU for the processing. Okay, that's why this bandwidth is very important. Okay, I will show the bandwidth. What will be the bandwidth in my computer? I will show you in demonstration phase, right? Now next come to this is very important part. Now suppose this is our application code. This is our application code, you can see. And this, obviously, all the instruction in this application code is not cannot be written in parallel form, right? So these are the sequential. These are the sequential instructions that are dependent to each other and can execute only in the sequential order. And this is the GPU portion. So what happens when we write an application and we want to execute that application? We want to run that application on the GPUs. So our programming SDK or our application, our software which allow us here, this parallel portion, this parallel computation is deployed to the GPUs, and this sequential portion is deployed to the CPU, right? It is handled by some different compiler. It is also handled by some different compiler. It is a very simple C code. When we talk about in later stage, we will discuss the CUDA. It's a very C kind of the language. Okay, so all that this is considered as the C code, and this C code is executed by the CPU with the C or C++ compiler, whereas this GPU code is executed by the specialized compiler designed or developed by the NVIDIA. How all this thing is possible? How it is possible to see in the upcoming slides, right? Please understand this concept. It's very important, right? So let's talk about some tools and libraries available. We divided this, all these facilities into simplicity and the performance, right? When we talk about the simplicity, so in that case, NVIDIA has provided the different accelerated libraries. We just use that library. Not a much coding is involved in that case. These are the standard library, and we can use this accelerated library to accelerate the existing code. That's it. We don't require to code. We don't require to understand the graphics. Just write down. Just add the library like OpenCC. OpenCC is the accelerated library available. Okay, with the help of this we can accelerate our application. Okay, so less coding is required. That's why it's very simple. And when we talk about the compiler directory, this is basically based on the existing language, simple and familiar. And here we have less control over the performance, but in that case we should know the compiler directory. We should understand the compiler directory, and before the compilation we have to instruct the instruction to the compiler to achieve some form of the parallelism. And finally, in the last case, when we talk about the parallel language extension, in that case, we have to write our program in a programming language. You should know, you should understand the hardware. You should know the hardware detail of the GPUs. You should be able to explore the low-level detail so that you can get the maximum performance. Until unless you know the every detail of the GPU's card, hardware detail of the GPU's card, you are not able to write the good program. So, in order to write a straightforward a program, you should know the hardware detail. But at the same time, you will get a very good performance because you are going to exploit the harness of the power of the GPU, right? It's up to you. Either you can use the accelerated library, or you can write your own code in their own language, right? Now there is a 3 ways to program GPUs applications. I told you library for simplicity, programming language for the performance. If you want performance, you use the programming language, but you have to learn this language. You have to understand the architecture of the GPUs so that you can program them. But similarly, you have the library. This is also known as the drop-in acceleration. Just drop that library just before or after the particular computational command. It automatically parallelize that code. Okay, or you can use the OpenCC directory through which you can accelerate your application. These are 3 ways. It's up to you, right? This programming language, the most popular programming language is the CUDA, and second one is the OpenCL. I will explain in the next coming slides, right? Now, this is our simplicity and this is for the performance. To implement as much as possible using portable library, use directory to rapidly extract your code. Use lower level language for important kernel. Okay. If you don't know what is this kernel, I will explain this term in the later stage. What is this kernel? Okay, that's very important. Now come to the different GPU developer ecosystem. NVIDIA provide a variety of the hardware, software, tools, library for the different kind of application. Okay, you can see, you can search in the NVIDIA, you can find a lot of lot of resources for each and everything. Okay, I just just for giving you the instruction, I get this slide from the NVIDIA. So for the numerical package, you can use the MATLAB, Mathematica, National Instrument, LabVIEW, and PyChuda, right? All this can use the power of GPU. Okay, please try to understand all this ecosystem, all these tools are basically used to harness the power of the GPU. They design in such a way that they can use the GPU. Okay. Similarly, if you want to debug or if you want to profile our existing application to identify the bottleneck in their performance, there is a lot of tools available. There's the CUDA GDB application and the visual profiler. I will demonstrate this visual profile after before ending this session. And the parallel inside, basically this is the software used for in the Linux system. Okay, but we want to use Visual Studio, we use in the our Windows system. Okay, this is the use in the Windows system, and parallel inside use in the Linux system. Okay, it is a parallel inside basically a Visual Studio alternative for the Linux. Okay, Selenium and the Total View, these are another application for varieties of the application. And the compiler that we can use C, C++, Fortran, Java, Python. It means you can write GPU programming in C, C++, Fortran, Java, Python with little modifications. Okay, and there is some auto parallelize and cluster tools, the OpenACC, MCUDA, OpenMP. This is basically used for the message passing, offload, and the libraries which is already available. You can see here for the Fourier fast Fourier transform, you can use this FFT library. It is already there. Just you have to understand the logic behind that, and you can use this library. LabVIEW, it is one of the most benchmark data set, NPP, videos, imaging, GPU lib. There is so many varieties of the libraries available in the GPU. You can use all this for deep learning, for machine learning, for each and every three. There is an inbuilt library is there, or you can just write your own program on the GPUs. Okay, and these are the different partners. Okay, training partners is there, and this OEM solution provider. Although there is a less courses available on the GPU computing. Okay, NVIDIA provides some resources to understand the GPU program. You can go through their website and you can find the concept. Okay, so GPU language solution. Now let us, we are only talking about the language solution through which we can program. Okay, so the language solution we provide, the most popular is the CUDA. Okay, the second one is the OpenCL. Right now we are able to use the Python to write program for the GPU also. That's we call the PyChuda. NVIDIA high performance computing SDK. Basically it is used for the high computational. Okay, this is the ultimate kind of a library is available. OpenAC is the directive which we can use to accelerate our application, and ADI GPU is there. So there is a variety of application. Okay, we cannot cover in this all this concept in this last time. Okay, so the two most important, first one is the CUDA and second one is the OpenCL. We are going to cover in this session, right? So let us understand one by one each and everything. This basically CUDA is provide. This is the basically it's a NVIDIA's famous framework for write a program for the GPUs. Okay, so provide a comprehensive environment for C++ developers building GPU accelerated application. Okay, we will see in the coming slide this CUDA and OpenCL both in detail. Okay, don't worry about that. And OpenCL is the low-level API for GPU computing that can run on the CUDA powered GPU. So this CUDA is also a programming language through which we can write a program on the GPU, and OpenCL is their open version of this programming language. Okay, so these two languages available. This CUDA can only run on the NVIDIA, whereas the OpenCL can run on the any kind of the graphics. Okay, so let us come to the PyChuda. give you access to the CUDA function from your Python code. You already know that Python is very simple programming language, very interpreted language through which, so it's very easy to write the CUDA program with the help of this PyCUDA. Area GPU, this is a novel approach to develop GPU application on .NET, combining the CUDA with Microsoft. Okay, so that use the power of the .NET through which we can use the GPUs. Now NVIDIA HPC SDK, I told you it is useful for the high performance platform, high performance hardware through which they can manage the higher performance, right? Now Ultimus Appetizer, an advanced productivity tool that generates the vectorized C++ and CUDA code from .NET assemblies. Okay, so you can find there is a lot of application software SDKs is already available. OpenCL, I told you, it is a directive for the parallel computing, the most popular GPU parallel programming model for researchers and technical programmers. Right? Now let us come to the CUDA. From this part, I will, in the coming slide, I will explain the CUDA, and then I will explain the OpenCL, their differences, the first program, then we will see the demonstration. Okay. Now, what is the CUDA? The CUDA stands for the Compute Unified Device Architecture. Basically, it's a framework developed by the NVIDIA through which you can write the program on the GPUs. So it's a parallel computing. It's a parallel computing platform and programming model NVIDIA invented by the NVIDIA. You know that there is only two players in the market which is involved to develop the GPU. The first one is the NVIDIA, second one is the AMD, right? Thus the NVIDIA is the most popular as compared to the NVIDIA. It is why it is popular, because NVIDIA is accepted everywhere. There is a very high resources available to run the NVIDIA's SDK on this. There is a AMD also makes some graphics card like Fusion series, ATI series. They are also there. Okay, but if you want to write a program on the AMD graph, you can also write the program on that with the help of this language available. But with the help of the CUDA, you cannot write a program on the AMD graphics card. That's very important. Try to understand. So it enables the dramatic increase in the computation performance by harnessing the power of the graphical processing unit through which we can write. And it's the proprietary technology for GPU programming from NVIDIA. It targets NVIDIA hardware and GPU only. Okay, CUDA only restricted to the GPUs of NVIDIA. That's it. If you want to write a program using CUDA on AMD graphics card, it is not possible. Right? Understand. And the first the release was at February 2007. This SDK and tools available to 32 and 64-bit Linux, Mac OS, all this. And tool L and SDK are available for free from the NVIDIA. So in order to write a program using CUDA, you have to download the CUDA toolkit from the NVIDIA side. The current version is 10 version. Okay, you can download this CUDA toolkit from the NVIDIA. It is totally free, and you can start writing the CUDA program. Without this SDK, you are not able to write a program. Okay, it's very simple concept. I hope you understand. Okay, I explained this concept. Now let's come to basically the CUDA was developed with several design goals in mind. Okay, the first one is it provides a small set of the extension to standard programming language like C that enable a straightforward implementation of the parallel. Okay, it means this CUDA basically CUDA is the extension of the C or C++ language. That's it. Means you can easily understand the syntax of C and C++ with little modification. That's it. Okay. With CUDA and C++, programmer can focus on the task of parallelization, okay, of an algorithm rather than spending time on their implementation. That's very important. Okay. So you can totally focus on the task of parallelization. Okay. This is the basic goal for designing, and it can support heterogeneous computation where applications use both CPU and GPU. Obviously, without CPU and GPU, we cannot use. So this is the ultimate target of the CUDA, that our application use both CPU and GPU. serial portion of the application are run on the CPU and the parallel portion are offloaded to the GPU in CUDA. As such, CUDA can incrementally apply to the existing application. Obviously, the CPU and GPU are treated as a separate device that have their own memory access in CUDA, right? CUDA consider both as a different devices, right? This configuration also allows simultaneous computation on the CPU and GPU without continuing for the memory resources, right? So this is all about our primary purpose is that the language should be very easy, and our focus will be on the task realization, and it will use the CPU and GPU both, right? This is the main purpose of designing the CUDA. Now let us come to the OpenCL. This is basically stand for the Open Computing Language. Okay, it is a competitor of the CUDA, and through which OpenCL we can write the program. Okay, so please try to understand. Basically, it's an open and a royalty-free standard for parallel computing intensive application, and it is basically initiated by the Apple, and their specification is still now is maintained by this Kronos Group, right? Kronos Group maintains their development and all these SDK resources in their own side, right? And it supports multiple devices, CPU, GPU, DSP cell. You can, with the help of this, you can program all these devices. Embedded profile in the specification, and SDKs and tools are provided by component device vendor, right? So you can get the SDK for OpenCL from the AMD side. Okay, please try to understand. For the AMD graphics processor, you can use the OpenCL.
Sir, screen is not display.
Okay, let me just a moment.
It's visible. It's quite visible. Try to rejoin, please.
Just a moment.
Okay, ma'am.
Let me again share it. Just a moment. Let me again share. Okay, is it visible now? Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, visible. Visible.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we are in OpenCL computation language. So it is maintained by the Kronos Group. I was telling you that OpenCL, with the help of this OpenCL language, you can program on NVIDIA's graphics card as well as on the AMD graphics card, GPUs, right? But with the help of CUDA, you can program only NVIDIA's GPUs. This is the constant, right? And this is the comparison of CUDA versus OpenCL. What it is? This is when we talk about the CUDA hardware, architecture, ISA, programming language, API, SDK, tools, everything is available. Everything is available here. And when we talk about the OpenCL, Open API and language specification is there, right? This is proprietary software developed by the NVIDIA. It is open and royalty free. Introduced in fourth quarter of the 2006, and it is the fourth quarter of 2008. NVIDIA is developer of this and implementation vendor. Free SDK, yes, depend on the vendors to vendor. Okay. After this comparison, you can easily understand which one we have to use for our GPU development. Okay, that's why this comparison is very important. So multiple implementation vendor, not just one NVIDIA vendor is there, and it is so responsible to maintain all kind of repositories of the CUDA. Okay, in this case, there is a Apple, NVIDIA, AMD, IBM. Multiple OS support, yes. It is also supported multiple OS, but depend on the vendor to vendor. Okay, heterogeneous device support, no, but just NVIDIA GPU can support. Here, yes. Here, yes. Also, yes. Okay. So the ultimate question, which one we have to choose, CUDA or OpenCL? If you might ask this question, sir, which one we have to use, CUDA or OpenCL? So first you have to identify which GPU you have in your computer. If you have an NVIDIA's GPU, so I suggest you use the CUDA. Why? Because CUDA programming has very large resources over the internet. if you have stuck in somewhere and you find some problem in coding or all this thing, you can find the all resources available in internet. You can get out of this problem. And NVIDIA also maintaining a very large repository related to the CUDA and their applications, right? And most of the time you can find out that NVIDIA is the most popular graphic GPUs, and mostly it is used in the application. Although NVIDIA is little bit costly to the AMD, since NVIDIA is popular, the cost for that, right? So CUDA is very much. And if you have an AMD graphics card, you can use the OpenCL as well as CUDA. But CUDA is very much coordinated with the GPUs, NVIDIA's GPU, right? So CUDA is, coordinate or very much synchronized with the AMD's GPUs, right? So it is my suggestion to you. If you have NVIDIA's graphics card, blindly you can use the CUDA to program the GPUs, right? Now let us come to the NVIDIA CUDA installation. Okay, from this portion, I will explain you the how you can install the CUDA in your computers, and how you can run a simple CUDA program on the your system. Okay, so this installation will let you do that, right? So let us come to the installation. Before installation, first you have to check whether the system requirement for you, whether we are able to run the application or not, right? You can see here, in order to use the CUDA, of course if you don't have a GPU, how you can program that? So first you have to ensure that there should be a CUDA capability. Right now, in the current moment of time, every GPU is available in the market which is CUDA enabled. Okay, but still you can verify. Okay, you can verify by going to the NVIDIA site. Just find out your model number, your GPU's model number. Like in my computer, I am using the GT 740M mobile. Okay, I am using the GT 740M. This is my graphics card, NVIDIA's graphic card in my laptop. This M basically for the mobiles. Okay, mobile operation means laptop. Okay, mobility, laptop. So you can find this M chipset in your laptop, but in desktop it is not there, right? So first you should have your computer, your laptop should be CUDA enabled GPU. So first what you need to do? First you need to find out the model number of your graphics card. Just put in the Google, write down the model number with like GT740 specification. So immediately you will get the NVIDIA sites where you can find out the specification, and in that specification you can find out the CUDA enable. Okay, CUDA enable, right? So right now let's come to the support version of the Microsoft Windows. Okay, right now I am totally focused, since my computer is running on the Windows. So I am giving you the demonstration in Windows. So I choose here Windows, but you can also install in the Linux, right? It is not difficult. In the Ubuntu, you can install easily. And a supported version of the Microsoft Visual Studio. With the help of this Microsoft Visual Studio, I will, write this Visual Studio provides you the interface through which you can write a CUDA program and you can run the CUDA program. And the first very important thing is that NVIDIA CUDA tool, right? This is already mentioned, right? Now please try to understand the order of installation is very important in that case. Why it is very important? First you have to install the Visual Studio. Which Visual Studio is very important? For that you have to go to the NVIDIA CUDA Toolkit's website. You have to find out the installation procedure for the Windows. There you can find out in that literature, you can find out the supported Visual Studio version. Okay, so before installing, please try to find out the which Visual Studio, my toolkit, which my NVIDIA toolkit supports which Visual Studio version. There might be 15, 16, 19, 20 is also the latest one is 20. Okay, so first when you install the Visual Studio, after second phase, you will install the CUDA toolkit. Now, CUDA toolkit basically what happened, it contains the sub-modules. In next slide you can see here. It contains the sub-modules. This submodule basically contains the display driver. It contains a display driver which is very much useful for to accelerate the CUDA application. It might be possible there is already a graphics card or already a display driver in your system, but when you install, when you are going to install CUDA toolkit, it again install the display driver for that. And at the same time, it will install the some compilers and all this binding, and finally it will install the Visual Studio integration. Please remember this. Okay, what it will do? Integration. It means it will integrate your CUDA capability, your CUDA interface to the Visual Studio. A thing that if you don't have Visual Studio 5, how it can integrate? So if you install the CUDA toolkit first and then GPU, so it is very difficult to integrate your CUDA toolkit on the Visual Studio. Please, order is very important. I am giving you my experience. I am giving you a suggestion with the help of my experience. Okay, I found a lot of problem installing this CUDA toolkit. So first you should install the compatible version with this CUDA toolkit, because there is a lot of CUDA toolkit available. CUDA toolkit 6, 7, 8, 9, 9.5, 8.5, 10, 10.5. There are so many available. And it might be possible that CUDA toolkit 7 doesn't support the Microsoft Visual Studio 2016. Okay, I am explaining you the very simple and very basic system, very basic ecosystem to develop your CUDA program. Please try to understand, that's very important. Okay, so this is the procedure. First, install your compatible Visual Studio version and NVIDIA CUDA toolkit. In my system, I installed the Visual Studio 10 and CUDA toolkit 7 in my system. Okay, this Visual Studio is compatible with the CUDA toolkit. Otherwise, your application will not run. Right? Now, installing let us come verify the system as a. How you will install? I told you earlier. If you want to verify, what you need to do, find out the model number and search the NVIDIA site. I already explained this. Second one is the download the NVIDIA CUDA toolkit. Okay, you can find out. Just type this NVIDIA toolkit in Google, and you will directly go through the NVIDIA site where you can find your appropriate version. You can find the Windows and Windows or Mac or Linux kind of. Okay, so whichever is best suited for you, you can download from there. Okay, when we talk about the Ubuntu, this NVIDIA toolkit is already available in the Ubuntu repository. You just need to type a respective command and it will automatically be written and automatically update. Just the internet connection is required, right? Now, after installing this, I assume that you have installed the Visual Studio. Okay, so after installing this, after downloading, you have to install this CUDA toolkit. Okay, and first you really understand. First, you have to read this release note available in that CUDA toolkit. That specify the which GPU is supported, which Visual Studio version is supported there. So you can find all this information from this release note. Okay, and finally you can test that the installation software runs correctly and communicate with the hardware. Okay. Basically, with the help of this command, you can find out whether a toolkit is installed or not. Okay, this command will give you whether this compiler for NVCC. This NVCC is basically compiler for this CUDA toolkit, right? Now, next come to the CUDA toolkit. It contains the display driver, toolkit, Visual Studio, visual samples. Okay, I already explained in the previous slide, but one thing is very important here: the CUDA sample. This CUDA toolkit contains the CUDA samples also. Okay, this CUDA sample contain a variety of applications from simple to very hard. Okay, I will demonstrate you how we can run this CUDA sample and get the advantage of the GPUs, right? Now, CUDA program structure, it's very important now, very simple. Please try to understand in CUDA programming terms, CPU is considered as a host and GPU is considered as a device, right? Please try to understand. This terminology is common. CPU considered as a host, GPU considered as a device. So host code for a hosted device is CPU, device code for the GPU. Any C program is a valid CUDA host code. Okay, in general, CUDA program host plus device, both code is available in there, cannot be compiled by a standard C compiler. Okay, both host and device code I told you in a CUDA program there is a sequential portion, there is a parallel portion also. So the sequential portion is executed by the C or C++ compiler, and the parallel portion is compiled by the NVCC compiler, NVIDIA C compiler. Okay, so host and device both code cannot be compiled by the C compiler. It is not possible. Okay, so we have to segregate the host and the device code separately, and then we will compile. So in this case, NVCC come in the picture. This is the NVIDIA C compiler through which we can compile the CUDA program. Right? Now, this is our compilation flow. Just a moment. You can see this is the compilation flow. The compilation flow for the NVIDIA C compiler is as follows. You can see in the pictures. You write the CUDA program, essentially C program with CUDA extension. You compile it with the NVCC. What you get is the host code and the device code separately. And that is a part of the code which will be compiled further by the host C compiler and linker. And that device code will be JIT. JIT means just in time compiler for execution on the device. So overall, these are the two different segments and code you can get, one to execute on the CPU and the other to execute on the GPU device, right? You can see here. So this, this is code for the, this is the sequential part, this is the parallel part, and when this parallel part is, separated, JIT compiler, just in time compiler can compile and execute. Here the C compiler uses their own traditional way, linker and all this thing to run that line. And finally, our code will be executed, right? Now, execution flow. Let us talk about this execution flow. The execution flow, as shown in the figure, the host code is the code that is executed in the CPU serial. The host code will launch the device code, that is the CPU parallel kernel. I told you, a CUDA code contains the serial and parallel both code. Okay, the CPU is responsible to launch the GPU code. Okay, the GPU parallel kernel will execute in the GPU. This is what we are referring to the device code, GPU. Okay, it will return result to the host code also, right? When a particular code is executed on the GPU, there is some result, and this result will be transferred back to the host, and host will read that and will display to the user. With this result, the host code may again execute, do some functionality, and then again launch some parallel kernel to the CPU device. And this computation can go on the back and forth. Okay. I have very simple CUDA program which will launch one kernel per GPU device and get back the result and print me the result. Okay. I can have sufficiently complex program also, which will be launch some kernel, get some result. I will show in with the NVIDIA SDK. You can see it there. You can easily find out that. So it might be possible we run the CPU version, then we run the GPU version, again we use the CPU version, then again we use the GPU version. It might be possible. Okay. This is a particular, you can see the difference between the standard C code and the CUDA code. Okay, you can see here the difference is there. Here, this function is basically responsible to multiply, to add these two variables for this manipulation. But in that case, in the CUDA version, you can see here, we are use a special function which is started with the underscore global underscore. Okay, in CUDA terminology, we call it the kernel. What we call it? The kernel, right? This is the kernel we will use, and this kernel will be executed on the GPUs only, right? It is executed on the GPU, but this portion is executed on the CPU. This portion is executed on the GPU. Now, how we will call this function? So you can see here in CPU, this is basically a calling procedure through which we can execute the command. But in the GPU, this is the another way. This is the specialized way through which we can execute execute this instruction on the GPU. This is the difference basically. Everything is same, nothing else. Right? So in the later stage we will understand. Now let me This is the very simple program. Vector addition CPU, you can see here. This is the vector addition CPU program. It is not targeted to GPU, right? So here you can see this is the vector add function here. This is the vector add function, and we have three variables. What we are going to do, we are going to add two variable A and B, and result will be supplied to the C. This is the simple program. Okay, and we call this function from this main. Okay, we dynamically allot the values to the A and B, C, and we supply the address to the this function, and this function will add the result. This is a very simple vector addition. Is we are going to add two. We are going to add the two variables, right? Now come to the next slide. Vector addition CPU and GPU. Now this is basically a simple CUDA program. I am going to understand. I am going to explain in the deeper state. You can understand. You can learn it. Okay. So in this case, you can see there is a vector addition CPU and this GPU version, right? You can see here in this part. This part, this global part, this is the global. This is the basically a kernel. It is a GPU kernel. Okay. This function, this is the declaration and this is the definition. You can see here, this is the definition. Okay, what we have to do, it is decided here, and this is a declaration just giving the instruction to the compiler. Okay, so this is the when a particular function is started with underscore global, it means it is the kernel function. It means this function is going to execute on the GPU. Simple function, simple concept, right? So it's a very simple. Just a moment. So here we observe that there is a, we include the CUDA.h and CUDA underscore runtime.h library. These are the header files which contain the required CUDA functionality that we'll be using in our code, right? In the first CUDA program, you can see here, as we have discussed earlier, there will be a piece of code that will execute in the CPU, and it will launch the parallel code or the device code for the GPU. This is what we call it the kernel, right? Now, what is the code that will execute in the CPU? That is essentially the vec-add program. Or this is the program that is commented as a host program, as you can see in the similar to our earlier GPU only vec-add program. In the previous program, which is only CPU program, there you can see that this is execute on the CPU. So essentially, this is the program that is called from the main. It is expecting to be passed 3 pointers. So this pointer that contains base address for 3 arrays, which has been dynamically allocated before the call has been made, and also suitably initialize the input array. They are added as a vector, and output array is written. That was my original vector code. Earlier I shown you. Hence I can have the vec-add code, which is the CPU side host program. Similar input argument are there. Now what we are trying to do here is that we don't want the addition to be done on the CPU. This host code is supposed to launch something called a GPU. You already know about that. Okay. The first thing inside the host program, vec-add, we declare some pointer, and then we also declare a specific enumerated data type code here underscore t. Right? I will show you the next slides. Now let's come to the, you can see here in this program what we are going to do. First, we assign the we define this vector add program. This is the host program you can see here. Okay, and we assign the memory location for that. Right. Now let's come to the next part. This is the device memory allocation. Now that's very important. Here you can see here. That's very important concept. Please try to understand. What we are going to do, there is a variable d underscore a and d underscore a. Okay, you can in this program you can find the two kind of variable, d underscore b and d underscore c, h underscore a, h underscore b small, and h underscore c. So these are the variables whose memories, whose address is located on the GPU, and these are the variables whose addresses is stored in the CPU. Okay, it means this variable is going to hold the values at GPU. This variable h underscore ab is going to hold the values at the CPU. Okay, so in this application you can find it's very simple. What we are going to do, we are going to allot the memory for this d underscore a variable. These are the basically this is the syntax. You have to write the syntax. We cannot do anything. So this is the CUDA malloc function through which we can find the error, and we collect the error in this. If there is an error, so we display this error. I told you this is kind of an exception handling where we collect the error and we are going to display this to the user. Similarly, we allocate the memory for the d underscore b. Similarly, we allocate the variable for the device through the CUDA malloc. Okay. This CUDA malloc function allocate space to the GPUs, and simple malloc function just allocate the space to the CPU. Very simple. Okay. Although you avoid to use this instruction, it is not necessary. Okay, you just write this 3 lines. It's very simple to allocate the memory for the CPU. Okay. Now,
Sir, please share the screen.
okay, is it not visible?
Visible,
Yes, it
sir.
is not visible.
I think some participant see that. Okay, let me again again share the screen. Just a moment. Just a moment. I'm going to share it again.
Hello.
Sir, I'm going to share it again.
Yes, yes.
Just, just a moment. Find a problem. Share it now. Okay, is it visible?
Yes, sir. Now visible. Visible.
Okay. So now second part is first we have to allocate the memory at the devices. In GPU we have to assign the variables location. Then we have to transfer the data from host to the device. Okay, you can see here this CUDA memory copy. This function basically is allotted. This function CUDA memory copy allot the copy the host underscore a, which is the memory location at CPU, transfer data to the d underscore a, which is the GPU location. Okay, this is CPU and this is the CPU. Okay, and the directive, the keyword we use here, CUDA memory copy host to device. Okay, host means CPU to device. We are going to transfer data from host to the device, right? And again,
Excuse me,
we use,
Excuse me,
yes,
sir. Sir, your screen is not visible.
not visible.
Actually, your presentation is not visible to all.
Okay, let me again share. Is there any problem? Just a moment. Let me unplug some devices. Okay, is it visible? Pratik sir, visible?
Yes, sir. Host to device data transfer. Now it's
Okay. Okay, is it visible now? Okay. So you know that this CUDA memory copy host to device function basically copy data from the host to the device location. Okay. Matlab, you are going to transfer data from host variable
can
to
you
the
share for one more time, sir? Can you share for one more time?
GPU variables. Okay. Similarly, we will write the instruction for the d underscore b also. Okay. Since these two variables contain the variable h of under b, h underscore a. These two variables will be copied to the d underscore a and d underscore b respectively, right? Now this is the kernel launch. Okay, this is the very important. Now we have a data at the GPU's location. At GPU location, we find the data. Now you can see that this instruction, although this contains some difficult terms, this vector add and this three arrow, you can see here this three and this three, through which we can transfer we execute the kernel on the GPU, and we have to supply the d underscore b, d underscore b. These are the two variables that hold the variable, and the result will be supplied to the d underscore c. Got it? Now before that, you can find this block per grid and threads per grid.
Hello.
Sir. Hello.
Your screen is not visible, sir.
Sir, it's not
Sir, your screen is
visible
not
again.
visible.
Okay, sir. Okay. Is it visible now? It's still.
No, sir. Screen is not showed.
Just a moment. What is the problem I'm talking about? Visible? Participant, is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it is visible now.
Okay, I don't know what is the problem. When we go in the full screen mode, I think that creates the problem. Okay, let's see. So again, this is the basically this is the kernel launch. Kernel launch means we are going to execute our function on the GPU. Okay, here you can see with the help of this command we are going to execute. Okay, this is the blocks per grid and threads per block. Okay, basically this two command is used to in today's session I cannot explain it properly because we have very less times. But what happened, all the computation core in the GPUs are divided into the blocks, and each block have some number of threads. Okay, so by specifying this number, we are going to use how many blocks we are going to use for our program. Okay, and how many threads per block we are going to execute. Where we will specify all this value here with the help of this. Okay, for this time, just for now to understand this, we are going to execute the number of threads per block. Okay. And all these things, these are all the basically exception handling kind of. If you find an error, then it will inform you the problem. But ultimately, this one line is very important in this whole segment, right? And in this case, how many threads we are going to execute? 256 threads per block. You can see here. Okay, so I am not explaining much here about this. Otherwise, it will confuse a lot. You can see here, but it is important to specify the blocks per grid and threads per block. Now, after launching your application, the result is there in the device code. Okay, in GPU, result is there. Now we have to return back this result from device to the host. So again, we will use the same function CUDA memory copy, and what we use here, this keyword CUDA memory copy device to host. Earlier we used the CUDA memory copy host to device, but here we want to return back our data from device to host. So we will use this kind of function through which we can get the data. Right? Now after calculation, we will get the data and we can display the data. But after doing all these things, we have to free the memory by writing this CUDA free d underscore a, CUDA free d underscore b, CUDA free d underscore c command. Right? With the help of this, we can do like that. Okay? And this is very important, that's it. And all these things are all just a command. This is just to verify whether the result is corrected or not. But the essence is that you have to use this command to return back our data from devices. Okay. Now this is basically a command we will use to execute our application, nvcc kernel.cuda. This is the name of our file, and this is the host CUDA file. It will automatically develop by the nvcc. And this is the object output, right? But when you are going to use the GPU Visual Studio for implementation, you don't bother to write all this instruction, right? You just click on the run button and it automatically compiles. But in the Linux side, you can use this command, right? In Linux environment. So here you can observe that the CPUs, what we transfer here, the data will be transferred from CPU to device before computation, and when the computation is completed, the data will transfer back to the CPU. Okay, that's very important. So we know that the GPU is the separate card. It is an accelerator card which is kind of getting attached to the CPU. The GPU has got its own device memory. For doing the computation in the GPU, from the last example, we could figure out that suitable data point need to be transferred by the CPU to the GPU device memory, right? So it's very important that since this transfer is happening here, this bandwidth is very important, right? This bandwidth for the transfer. Okay. Now next come to, I have to give you the demonstration also. So please, I am going forward. Firstly, now this is the CUDA malloc function. We have using this function supported by the CUDA runtime. Okay, so there is a CUDA malloc now. This is the CUDA malloc function you can see here, and what basically it exactly is doing. It was allocating memories. It was allocating memory segment from GPU global memory, which is a physically different from the CPU's global memory. Okay, so here we are going to allocate the memory to the GPU's global memory. Now this expect a generic pointer whose type is void star star void star star, right? It is a generic pointer. Now this low level function is common for all the object type. That is the reason for that it is generic pointer. Okay, so you already know that I already explained. Similarly, you can see here this is the transfer data from GPU to CPU memory. It can also transfer among different devices memory location. Right now we have only CPU and GPU, but if we have some other devices also, so with the help of this function we can transfer. But one point please note here, if you have a multiple GPU, which is possible. One of the NVIDIA's deep learning machine, which is known as a DGX, have 4 Volta cards, 4 highest rated Volta cards, and it is basically dedicated for only for the deep learning kind of problems. Okay, it costs around the 40 lakh. 2 DGX machine called around the 80. So recently we get the quotation from the NVIDIA for establishing this lab in our college. Okay, it is in the process, it is in pipeline. I already explained all this thing. Let us skip that. I want to explain to you the. Now this is the performance tool, NVIDIA SMI. This is I will show you all these things. NVIDIA System Management Interface Program. It is also known as an NVIDIA SMI. This is the low-level utility like a command prompt through which you can monitor and manage your graphics card. Okay. If time permit, I will explain you. So this is the performance check tool. If suppose you are going to run an application in your graphics card, and you want to monitor how much load is on GPU, what will be the temperature, what is the current clock speed. So you have to use the NVIDIA SMI card for that, right? Similarly, we have a visual profiler. Suppose you write a CUDA program and you now want to check whether this CUDA program is optimized or not. Where is the performance check? Where is the bottleneck? You can use this also. This is the 2 tools available in the along with the. When you install the CUDA toolkit, this visual profiler is automatically installed, right? So these are the tools, and okay, these are GPU power consumption idea. Let us now show you the demonstration. How I can right, just a moment. Just a moment. I am going to open the Visual Studio. Just a moment. Okay. Okay, I am going to open the Visual Studio 2010, and I am to. Okay, it is visible. Visual Studio is visible. Please let me know. The
Yes, sir.
screen is visible.
Visual, visual.
Now this is
Visual, sir.
okay. In my system, I installed this Visual Studio 2010 edition. When you first install Visual Studio and after that you install the CUDA toolkit, what will happen when you are going to create the new project? You will find this CUDA runtime in that. If it is properly installed, if CUDA toolkit is properly installed and properly integrated with the GPUs, you will find this kind of the facility in NVIDIA. It means the Visual Studio provides you a facility through which you can write your own program, right? So just write a simple, this is the demo 2 application, and then extension is .CUDA. When we open CUDA runtime, now it will create a project, and it automatically adds some demo program in that. Again, my purpose is to demonstrate you. You can see here, this is the demo program. Is it visible? Just I zoom it. I zoom in now. This is basically a demo program is already there in that, right? So you can execute this demo program. Let me execute this program by just adding this here. Get CS, otherwise it will not hold the screen. Okay. And we have to add the header file, which is Antonio.h. We know that. Just save it and run it now. It's a very simple program to understand the graphics, although our size of array is very low, right? But you can see I'm going to run application here. It just since we are running it first time, it will take some time. There's a lot of binding is there. Now this is the simple output. Although it's very simple, but it does not show any output, right? It just find out the sum of the two array and just record it there. Okay? It's very simple. I just want to show you how you run. So it's very simple. You just need to run this, start debugging. You can run the program. Your whole CUDA program will run on that. Okay? No need to. Otherwise, when you use other than the Visual Studio, there is a lot of dependency you have to manage. There is a lot of path you have to manage for that. Okay, so it's very difficult for you. Okay, all the programming constraint I have explained in the PPT is already there in this program. You can see here. Okay, let me point it. It's very simple program. This is our kernel function. You can see here. This is the kernel function. It is started with the underscore global. Okay, this is our kernel function. Okay, and now let me explain the different CUDA toolkit. Now let us come to the different toolkit available. Just shut down it. Just a moment. When you install the CUDA toolkit, you will get the CUDA sample also. Okay. The folder is visible to you, I hope. Okay. The path you can note here. This is the path. Program C has program data, NVIDIA Corporation CUDA sample and version 7.0. All the sample is already there, and these sample are divided into 7 categories: sample 0, utility, graphics, imaging, finance. Okay. Now let me open this device utility one, and we have a device to this already developed function. Okay. When you open this, there you can see here there is a 2010 compatibility, 2012 compatibility, 2013 compatibility version is there. Okay, it means you can open this Visual Studio project file in 2010, 12, and 13 version, right? So you just have to open this. This is the when you click on that, you will get the device query on Visual Studio. Okay, and when you execute it on, this is the device. Let me run this on. Okay, you can run, and you will. No, this is already done, and this stop running. Okay, now let me show you where this executable is located. And you can see here, this is the bin folder. This bin folder basically contains all the executable file. Okay, so let me open this with the help of this run command cmd. I will open this cmd. Okay, time is very less. This is the device query function. Okay, I will execute. I just you can see here. I just open. You have to just open the cmd command prompt. Okay, just located this folder. Okay, the path is there. You can see here the path. Okay, the path is there. This is the device query file. This is the executable file which is just created by using the Visual Studio. I just want to execute this, so I just drag and drop into the command prompt and just enter here. You can see I am getting some output. Are you able to see this command prompt? I hope this screen is visible. So in this command window, you are able to see. Okay, you can see here this the graphics. It basically populate all the details related to the graphics card, right? So here this G4 GT740M is my graphics card. Okay, and you can find all the detail here. The most important here is that you can see here this is the 3, 1, 3rd, 4th line. You can see here 384 CUDA core. I just highlighted. So my graphics card support 384 CUDA core. Since there is a CUDA core, it means it supports the CUDA programming also, right? The maximum and some physical and maximum and memory burden and all the specification already is there. You can just find out. Okay. So whenever if you want to use some research project and where you want to include your specification of your GPU, so you just run this device query from the NVIDIA SDK, and you will get all the specification. You just copy this specification in research paper or your copy, right? So this is basically it. Now let me show you some other application also. You can see here the simple application. This in the first folder you can find the very simple application. Here is this last one is the vector addition. Matrix multiplication is already there. Okay, I already opened this and I already made the executable file which is there. Let me open and run this file. Okay, you can see here I already build this matrix executable file of the matrix multiplication. Okay, so let me open this again. Just I want to drag and drop on the command prompt and just run it. Just drag and drop here and you will get the output. Here you can see the output here. In the last you can see here it is running now. Now you can see I am going to open a third-party application. Its name is the GPU-Z. Okay. This is the third party. I think it is visible to you. This is the third party application you can see here. Okay. With the help of you can just find out the log detail of your GPU in your computer. So here you can see NVIDIA G4 GT740. This is my computer, and there is some integrated GPU is there already, but it is not enough capable. So NVIDIA G4 GT740 I am using, and you can find out the sensors detail here. Okay, these are the sensor details. Right now this GPU load is 0%. You can see here this GPU load is 0%. Okay. Now let us again execute this. I am going to again execute this matrix multiplication operation, and when this matrix multiplication operation is executed, this GPU load is also increases. You can observe here. I am going to again run. You can see here it is going to execute. Again, use very small portion of the word. It's not visible. Let me some other heavy application so that you can easily understand the. Okay, now this is the fluid. This is the ocean simulation. Let me run it again. All these applications are available in the CUDA SDK. You can just execute and you can run. Okay, you can. There is some problem is there. I have to again rebuild here. Just a moment. Let me demonstrate you. I will open this. Just a moment. Now I open this ocean simulations in Visual Studio. Okay, you can find this is ocean file. This is the kernel file. This is the. Now let me compile it again. Build it again. Now you can find this ocean simulation. Is it visible for you? I think, right? This is the ocean simulation in one screen, and you can see here. Although this is the just because of the some problem, it is not. You can see here the GPU load here. You can see this is the GPU load is 99%. Okay. GPU load 5%. Here you can say it vary according to the graphics and graphics. It vary only. Sometimes it use the 98%. Sometimes it use the 6%. Right. So this is the basically a load. You can take 50%. Even you can zoom this application. You can zoom here. Okay. This may vary. GPU load 15, 16. You can see by running this application, we are not able to utilize the power of GPU, only 50, 16. Sometimes it will use, for a particular moment of time, it will use the 19 and 90%, right? So with the help of, you can find out. So this is live, you can run this application basically running on the GPU only, okay? So there is a lot of application is there, okay? With the help of Visual Studio, you can open that application, build that application, prepare and create an executable file, and you can run. Even with the help of that application, you can utilize your, you can identify the performance bottleneck. One more thing I want to showcase you. When after installing CUDA Toolkit, just type profile, Visual Profiler. You can see in my screen. Is it visible? I think. Okay. Just open this Visual Profiler. Why we are using this? I told you in the presentation, this is basically used to measure the performance, right? So again, create a new profiler session here. With the help of that, just find out. You can see you have to supply the executable file here. Okay, that's it. This tool requires the executable file, so I'm going to locate that executable file. Let me. Matrix multiplication. I choose this matrix multiplication, which I already did. Next, and I just run it for the 10 seconds only. Okay. So it will run that kernel and try to give you the statistic related to the data application. Right. Okay. You can see here, my dear friends, dear participants, it is one of the very important tools to check the performance of any application running on the GPUs. Okay, you can see here, this is the memory. You can see this matrix multiplication. Computation is very important and data transfer is very less. But when we talk about the matrix transpose, data transfer is more as compared to the computations. So these are the behavior of the application. Because you observe the behavior and then you can deploy to the GPU. So you can see this simple thin line that shows the goes to data transfer. But when you see that this computation, this is the computation. These are the kernel which execute on the GPU. You can see here it is very compute intensive, right? You can see here, and here this compute you can find out a detail you can find out the detail how much time this kernel is executed. 4.3.17 this kernel is executed. And the compute utilization is 88.6%. There is a lot of statistic you can get from this. Okay, you can analyze and lot of things with the help of this tool. Runtime, you can see this CUDA malloc is executed here, CUDA event synchronizer. Okay, just give you the blueprint of your code where this code is going to execute, right? So with the help of this, you can find out you can just check your you can bottleneck of your application. Okay, just because of the less time, I'll just skip something. Okay, although you get the proper experience. Okay, I just added the last two slides, which is related to the power consumption. Okay, so it is one of the most growing area right now. Since the GPU provides the computation, obviously it's very compute intensive, but at the same time it is very power hungry. Okay, so very much research is going on in that direction. How you can reduce the power consumption of the GPUs. Okay, I'm just skipping this slide, but I'm giving the hint that you can work in this direction also. Right? That's it. That's enough from my side. If you have any question related to my presentation, you can ask me. Right? This is my email IDs. If you have any problem, if you have doubt, you can directly email me to me. I will respond to you related to the GPU and NVIDIA, right? Yes, do you have any question? You can ask. The voice is not, audio not audible.
All participants are requested. Kindly ask the questions. You can also write your question in chat box.
If someone asked you to the APUs, okay. So basically what happened, someone asked the question, what is the APU? APU is basically what the NVIDIA, right now we have a very different CPU and GPU, processor. But what AMD did, AMD, combined CPU and GPU in the single chip and name is the APU, right? So there is a APU. This is the term which is coined by the AMD, not in NVIDIA. Yes, anyone else?
Sir, is CPU core better for deep learning?
No, it is not possible to run an application on the deep learning application on the CPU. What happens? You please try to understand. For the deep learning, there is a lot. For each and every deep learning, there is a neural network or some convolution kind of network is involved. Okay, and they use a neural network, and neural network required a lot of matrix computations, right? And for the matrix computation, CPU cannot handle that. GPU is very important. And right now we are getting a GPU with the tensor core is there, which is a specialized core that handles the matrix multiplication, which is very much useful in the deep learning. Right? Deep learning, it is not possible to run on the CPU.
Okay, sir.
Yes, CUDA only run on the supported NVIDIA. But someone asked the question, CUDA can only run on the NVIDIA. It is compatible with the NVIDIA only. Or it is very better to use CUDA with NVIDIA only. You can use, right now the better option is Python with CUDA. You can use that. You can explore that. If you find CUDA is very tough, you can use the Python CUDA. Very simple. You just take an application,